the 15-inch M2 MacBook Air in 2024, my real-world 2-month review. Welcome back to the channel. So if you follow my channel, you know I picked this up about 2 months ago. This is the M2 15-inch MacBook Air, and I got it for $13.99. It came with 512GB SSD, but key here is 16 gigs of RAM on this thing, and that's what I'm going to be talking about, 16 gigs of RAM. I got it at Best Buy, and again, for $13.99. I thought it was a really good deal, but why would I pick this up when the M3s were just coming out? So in this video, I first want to set up what exactly did I do over these first 2 months, like what was my workload like? And then after that, I want to say, hey, what are the pros and cons I noticed after full kind of hard use after 2 months? And I think some of them are the same, I think, that people will always kind of get, but other ones are a little bit more different, so stay tuned for those. But I think overall, it's just an incredible system, but I'm going to show you some pros and cons coming up here. Okay, for starters, who am I? I have a YouTube channel. You're watching it right now. I have 23,000 subscribers. So what I do is I do 2 to 3 videos a week, up to 130 videos per year, and I upload them and all that stuff. So I'm a YouTuber, and that's what I needed a computer for. But overall, I really wanted this to go to the library and actually get out of the office, go see some light. So I wanted to get out of the office just to kind of get, just to do something different. And I want to still be able to write scripts on this, obviously you can do that, but also video edit when I'm remote and stuff like that. I have other systems I can do it when I'm here, but when I'm remote, is this good enough? This M2 MacBook Air in 2024 with the 16 gigs, is it good enough for really good video editing for my workload? All right, just a little bit more background, then we'll get into the pros and cons. So I have a Sony, a ZV-E10, I'll show you a close-up of that. That does 4K filming. I film in 24 frames per second. So not quite, some people do a lot more than that. I just want to kind of be fully, disclose everything that I'm doing. And then I use a product called CapCut. And I've talked about this before, just really quickly. I have like up to 3 layers of maybe 4K footage in there. I also have transitions going. I have text layers, audio layers. I do color correcting, stabilization, but nothing crazy, right? You can see my videos. Take a look at what you're watching, and this is what you get. A lot of B-roll, but nothing quite extensive as some of the bigger YouTube channels. So I just want to set that up. And then I use stuff like Photoshop and Keynote and stuff just to do some kind of graphics behind the scenes. And when I go to the library, I'll use just all the basic programs, Word and Pages and Notes and things like that to write all my scripts on. So as you can see, obviously the video editing is the main part of this. So if you're not doing, 120, 130 videos a year and you do less stuff, just like video conferencing or just business stuff, obviously whatever I say coming up is going to be, you would be below that even. So if it works for me, it would work for you. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. The pros and the cons over the 45 days with the 15-inch M2 MacBook Pro in 2024. And should you consider the M3 or the M2 now with the price drops of this, I want to just give you my workload. Let's just go through the pros and cons. Pros. Number one is the battery. Let me explain this. Now, when I knew it was going to be good, but I actually charge this maybe once a week. I go to the library 3 or 4 times a week, and I actually charge this once a week basically, and I even do video editing on it. So when I'm just doing documents, I'll get 15, 16 hours on this thing. When I'm doing video editing, the way I do it, maybe 8 or 9 hours. It's pretty incredible. I know if you do more extensive video editing, it might be less than that. But overall, when you have 40% and I take it to the coffee shop with me and I look and it's 39%, I know I'm going to get like 4 or 5 more hours out of it, which is a huge peace of mind. So it's something you pay up for with an Apple computer, but the battery, I didn't think it would be such a huge positive, but just the fact that you don't have to worry about that ever, and it's always just ready to go is such a huge positive. All right, really quickly, typing. The keyboard is phenomenal. It's one of the best I've ever, I've had some Lenovo's and it's going to be very similar to those. Overall though, there's not a lot of key travel if you get, but if you had one Mac like this, you've had them all, except for the big problems with their keyboards a couple years ago, but they've really fixed that. So these are some of the best long typing sessions. Sometimes I type for 3 hours straight. Nothing to complain about. All right, so for video editing, let's talk about this. This is an important one. Obviously, I've been using this now for 2 months. I've done a whole bunch of videos on this, and I've not had one beach ball or one freeze. And it's really, I think, because of the, the increase in the CPU for my M1 and also the RAM, obviously. It's 16 gigs. That's going to be key here. But with my M1, I had a base model with 8 gigs of RAM, and I would get a stutter, definitely in the timeline from time to time, and I'd also get sometimes a beach ball or something where I have to reset it. It wasn't that often, but for my workload, it was causing that. With this is butter smooth. I've never even had one in the last 2 months since I've gotten it. Not one hiccup on it. It's butter smooth on the timeline. In fact, if I got something more expensive than this, I wouldn't probably notice that, at least for my workload. I just want to set that straight that I had no complaints with this. I love it for just going out and just going out somewhere remotely and doing my work. Keep in mind that CapCut is not even really, it's not optimized so much for this. So if you use something like Final Cut Pro, you might even get better results. All right, the screen. It's got some pros and cons, but the pro basically here is going to be, it's huge. And so I don't think you realize it, but if you go to the store, I recommend going to an Apple store and taking a look at this versus like the 14 or the 13 inch. It's a huge difference. So I think, you know, some of the pros are this is way bigger than I need to actually do my editing. Well, it's actually not. It's probably right on the limit, to tell you the truth, but it's big enough to do my editing comfortably when I'm sitting in, you know, if it's just sitting there without an external monitor. So I think this is kind of the smallest you want to go when you're doing a lot of video editing. And I used to think that the 14 inch might be good enough for that, but this is, you know, when you put them side by side, you do get some more real estate here, and a little bit makes a difference when you're dealing with timelines. Plus, overall, the performance has been phenomenal. Like I said, you know, with video editing and stuff, everything's butter smooth. There's been no hiccups. So overall, I think, you know, it's just something I can't complain about. I mean, even if I was to get some system like, you know, the 14-inch Pro, would I notice it? I wouldn't even notice it, to tell you the truth. I mean, some of my edits and stuff like that, I mean, you know, this can do a 10-minute let me think, a 10-minute export in about 5 minutes, so half the time. And like I said, if it was in 3 minutes and saved me 2 minutes, that's 6 minutes a week for me. It makes no difference whatsoever to spend the extra money. I mean, there's some other reasons to get the 14-inch, but for my workload, that wasn't it. All right, the form factor is kind of crazy here, but I actually put this in my bag at the library, and I'll show you some pictures. When I picked this up, there's been 2 occurrences when I've been there that I actually had to pick it up, and I had to open it up and see if it was in there. It's that kind of light. I don't know why, because it's maybe thin and long. When it sits in my bag, it feels like there's nothing in it, and I actually have to feel around to make sure I didn't forget it at like on the desk or something. I was walking one time down the stairs, and I was like kind of frantic, you know, did I leave it up there? Someone probably stole it, and it was in the bag. It's really that light. I mean, it's actually pretty phenomenal. I think the other ones are more thick, and they're like a brick. It just plays tricks with your mind. I know it's only a couple ounces at best lighter, but it makes a difference. All right, like I said, CPU performance, I'm just, you know, obviously that's probably the same as the video editing. It's been phenomenal for me. I don't think I need anything faster. Anything you do besides like video editing or higher end tasks like 3D rendering, and obviously if you do stuff like that, you may need higher up. But for the general user, this has got more than enough horsepower on the CPU. Speakers. Speakers are, again, phenomenal, if I don't want to overuse that word, but I've had a million. I have a channel. I have a lot of different Windows laptops. This is, I can say, better than any Windows laptop I've ever had. I know that the 14 inch is better, the 16 inch is a little bit better than that, but this laptop is better than any Windows sound system I've ever had myself, and I test a lot of them. That's all I can say. And then finally, the last pro that I found here is the silent, you know, it's silent. I mean, it's for someone that doesn't like a lot of noise like me. I'm in the library, I'm kind of sitting there where I don't like people talking around me when I'm working. I go to the quiet room. This thing, if it was whining, I've had Windows laptops and they sound like a jet engine moving up when you're doing, you know, tasks like video editing. This thing stays so silent, it's incredible. I love it. And it's something that's overlooked a lot until you actually use it. I know people think, you're crazy, but use it and you're gonna see what I mean. All right, so those are the pros. Let's go through the cons. And the cons aren't even that much, but there's some that are kind of nitpicky, and I want to get into them because it depends on the model you get and stuff like that. But overall, the cons aren't too bad. All right, fingerprints. I keep saying this. I've said this 1,000 times on my channel. If you get the midnight blue, if you get anything else, it's not going to be a problem for you. If you do get the midnight blue, they usually have better sales in this color because of the fingerprints. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and shut this. I put a skin on it. I'll have a link to these skins, but basically in my description. But here's a skin, and I put this on here except for the inside. The inside's, you know, it's fixed everything. It's given it some grip. I love it, and I mean, you may not like a skin, but I think they have solid colors as well. So just do that if you have to. So I really can't call that a con because it's my fault I bought this color. All right, the keyboard material, and I'll show you some close-ups. This is one of the biggest cons. So it just becomes like oily and kind of miscolored after using it just for a short period, even like a couple days. And I don't understand why Apple has this kind of material on their keyboards, especially the black ones. It just seems like it just is kind of the worst part of the laptop is the construction of the keyboard material, whatever that is. And I'm also worried maybe the keys may rub off eventually. I just don't know. We'll have to see in a couple years. I mean, I'm talking 5 years from now. Overall, though, it's just this weird appearance where it's never clean on the keyboard and it's got these weird smudges. A lot of other keyboards like Lenovo and stuff like that don't do it, so I just don't know what material they're using or if they're ever going to change it, so I got to give it a con. All right, number 3 con is this is again kind of nitpicky, but it's dust and kind of dirt that gets in here, so it's not the fault of the laptop obviously, but this is the fault that I have to kind of point out. If you're like in an office that's really dirty, or especially like a construction site, you pull this out of a pickup truck or something, and it's not that dirty, but you're outside. any like little grains of sand or something, I feel like if you shut the lid, it's got such like small margins on it that's either going to scratch the screen or break something. So it's kind of delicate on the inside. The outside is incredibly constructed well, but the inside is like, it's fine. But like, I think if you get any type, I'm always looking to see if I have anything in there when I shut it, because I'm always worried it'll crack something or scratch something. So you got to kind of be careful there. All right, reflections on the screen. So obviously there's going to be reflections on the screen. I'll show you some close-ups. It's a glossy screen. Now I prefer glossy screens because if you have a matte screen and someone sneezes on it or something like that, it's impossible to clean. You get smudges, they never come off. You can clean these a lot easier, plus the text and everything looks clear on them. Of course though, with that said, there's going to be reflections. Now I'm, at the library, I'm showing you some pictures, the reflections can be pretty big, but overall, I think, it's just one of those things where you just got to deal with it, right? I mean, I can sit next to the window, which I did, or I can go into the internal library and sit there where there's no glare. It's up to me. So I can't really, say it's a terrible thing there either, but if you're outside all the time using this, which I don't know anybody that is, obviously a matte screen might be better. All right, heating up or warming, again, I don't want to dwell on this because it's almost a non-issue. When I have this on my lap and I'm typing and doing normal tasks, it's not even really warm for me. If I start doing video editing and hard exporting and stuff like that, I put it on my desk. I don't put it on my lap. It gets a little bit warm. We got to deal with it. Obviously it's a very thin case with no fan. Not really a con. I just want to kind of point it out. And then ports, I'm not even going to say ports here. In fact, I'm going to nix them from the cons because it's just like if you were to buy, let's say you bought a Chevy or something, like a Chevy, Metro or something, whatever it is. And then basically, you went to the dealer and said, well, this thing can't go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds like that Ferrari. Well, you bought it, right? You knew what it was going into it. Here I am. I know what the ports were when I bought it. And so it's up to me if it was that good for me or not. I can't give it a ding on that. So overall, I bring a dongle. I almost never need an SD card, to tell you the truth, when I'm off site. If I do need one, I'll just bring a small dongle with me. I have a lot of them. They're, you can get them for 20 bucks. So overall, it doesn't really bother me, and I don't think it's really a con either. All right, so I hope this video helps people because I'm a creator with 23,000 subscribers. I do, I have like 650 videos up online and stuff. So I do, you can see my workflow. If you want to be kind of like this, obviously if you're higher level with a whole production company and stuff, you're going to need more than an Air, right? But if you're someone like me that does it all by myself, I do all the editing, I do all the script writing, I do everything like that, it works for me. And I do 4K editing as well. I don't even do 1080p. So you can see, I just want to give someone kind of a baseline on where they might need to be and stuff. But keep in mind, I got the 16 gig version. There's almost no swapping on this now. With the 8 gigs, it's a completely different story. You're going to get a lot of swapping. You're probably going to get some stutters. Now, it'll probably still work for you, but overall, I think it's going to be better to go with the 16 and get these deals. And therein lies my last part. So would you buy an M2 in 2024 over an M3? I would say if the cost is the same, obviously get the M3. If the cost is very similar, get the M3. The M3 is faster in every way. It's a little bit faster, but it's it's going to be faster, obviously. It's got some other advantages to it as well, like the multi-screens in the clamshell mode and stuff. So if you need that, get it. Get the M3 if you don't need. But if you don't need that and you want to save some money, this has to be about 300 bucks off. I would say the M3. I got this for $13.99. It would be about $16.99 on the M3 version, so I saved 300 bucks. I know there's a 1 terabyte version for $14.99 with 16 gigs of RAM on this. What it would be $18.99. That's saving you $400 off the M3. So that's a big savings there. But if it's not $300 or $400, get the M3. If it's like $100 savings, then I recommend that. So that's my overall kind of review of this. If you can find something like this on sale, and they're going to be coming pretty hard, maybe even around Christmas or a little bit later in the year if they're still selling these things, take a look for them because they're really good systems and capable, like I just pointed out. And if you're like me with a small YouTube channel, I guess, or medium size, I don't know what I call it, one day hopefully big, but anyways, you get the idea, then this should be okay for you, at least for stuff that you do off-site. And obviously if it's your main system and your only system, maybe get the 14-inch, but like I said, there's some pros to this with the screen size and stuff, so you got to weigh all those options. We'll talk to everybody soon. I make 2 to 3 videos a week. Peace.